Today's topic is dreadful, terrible, strong beast. And tonight we would identify possible patterns for this beast, dreadful beast, and some of the clues that we can use to identify this modern beast nation or kingdom. So let's launch the presentation. This is Semyon. The whole book of Revelation is full of semeions or semeion, according to the first chapter of book of Revelation. It's not something I invented, it is scripture. So semeion goes like this. It is a symbol, it's a metaphor, it's a flag, it's a beacon, and it has a larger coverage of nearly 100 plus figures of speech. All of them are combined under one Greek word called semeion. So the closest equivalent to in English is symbol. So I would like to stick to semeion because this is what the scripture uses. And the semeion goes like this. It's a practical example. We see a house, a big building, a round building, on top of which US flag is flying. And in front of that, there is an elephant kicking out donkey out of this house. So this is kind of a typical political cartoon that appears. And the whole book of Revelation is like this. As Apostle John or Apostle or Prophet Daniel, Prophet Isaiah, Prophet Ezekiel and Jeremiah, all of these are shown a kind of political cartoon like this. So when they were shown this vision, Daniel would record or John would record a building and then the elephant kicking out from donkey, and he writes this, and this is what we read in scriptures. The visions that are shown to the prophets, this is what it is. But the vision is rich with symbols, symbology, and which we call semeion. So elephant is not really elephant, donkey is not really donkey. Elephant is a representation of Republican Party, and donkey is a representation of Democrats. And here the elephant is kicking, that is, Republicans are kicking out a Democrat candidate out of this building. So here US flag is flying on the top of this building. So it has potential to be Congress, it has potential to be Senate or House of Representatives or White House or a state legislature. So some things are kept not unclear in scriptures, but rest of the information is given. So we have to spend extra time and do more analysis to find out which one this is. One important clue in this context is the political cartoon appeared the next day after the presidential elections were declared. Election results were declared. So the presidential election results, since they were announced, so the next day we see that, so the time context brings us to White House. So this building has to be White House because it appeared immediately after the presidential election results. So the presidential candidate of Democratic Party, Democrats, they were kicked out of White House, and the Republicans now occupy the seat of presidency for US. So this is how it works. Interestingly, I want to share an experience. We have a Catholic church close by, about a couple of miles from our home, and they have a big sign for last couple of weeks. And the sign reads like that, like this: neither elephant nor donkey matters. What all matters is lamb. I was very surprised at the semeion the Catholics were using. What they were typically saying is neither Republicans nor Democrats really matter. What matters is lamb, the Christ, Son of God. So I thought that was interesting. So the semeion is being used even by Catholics. So let's launch into the Revelation 11. This is the primary chapter we are going through for the two witnesses. And I will just go through the verses quickly. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple, or naas, of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. So Apostle John was told by this angel to measure three things: the temple, altar, and them that worship there. This is a typical picture of the new covenant true church. But the court outside, which is outside the temple, outside of true church, leave out and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles or ethnos, which are not true church. And the holy city, this is another name for the true church, shall be tread underfoot 42 months. So there's a long period of time or short period of time the church would be under persecution, trodden down by everybody that is not true church. So that's the language. Why God is giving the true church first descriptions, and then he slides into two witnesses. So it's a continuation of thought. Verse 3, and I will give unto my two witnesses, these are two witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, 1260 days, clothed in sackcloth. And these are the two olive trees and two lampstands standing before the God of the earth. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceeds out of their mouth and devours their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. These have authority to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have authority over waters to turn them into blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. Verse 7 is the verse that we are currently studying. And when they shall have finished their testimony or their witnessing, the beast that ascends out of the bottomless pit, Greek abusas, shall make war against the two witnesses and shall overcome them and kill them. So this is where we are exploring. Let me read a few more verses. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which is spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. And they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves. And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry, and shall send gifts to one another, because these two prophets tormented them that dwelt on the earth. And after 3.5 days, the spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. And at the same hour there was a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell, and in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were affrighted and gave glory to the God of heaven. So this is the two witnesses. They had died, they were killed, they were martyred by this beast. that ascends out of bottomless pit, and it makes war against them and overcomes them and kills them. So who is this beast, or what is this beast that ascends out of bottomless pit that triggered us to do some homework on the beasts, and what are the different types of beasts and different beasts that Bible talks about? So we went to prophet Daniel, book of Daniel, and we went through different beasts. And Daniel 2 gives kingdoms in a vision or a dream to Nebuchadnezzar, the emperor of Babylon. And of course, Daniel comes and interprets that for him. That is Daniel 2. And then Daniel chapter 7, a vision, night vision is given to Daniel. And here we see 4 beasts that come out of sea. And out of 4 beasts, the 4th beast is called Dreadful and Terrible Beast, which we will be discussing tonight. Is it better now, Don?
It's slowly catching up. Right now it says them that worship therein. So Apostle John was.
Connection was good all through the day. I don't know, everybody started using internet now. Are you able to hear me fast?
Everything else is okay. It's just that the
Oh yeah, okay.
text is running way behind. That's all.
Yeah, okay.
It's not forgetting anything. It's typing everything, but it's running really behind.
Okay, that's fine. We will continue the presentation. So we went through different words used. Behema, that is the first Hebrew word, and Kahi is the second. And Behema is more benign beasts like cattle, livestock, and Kahi is typically used for wild beasts, wild predatory beasts. And Kavwa is another word that is actually Aramaic. This is used in Book of Daniel for these wild beasts. And then we have beasts at the throne of God, cherub or cherub, seraph, nachash, and nephesh. These are Hebrew words we went through. And there are specialized beasts, Tanin, Leviathan, and Behemoth. That's very interesting. These 3, we can do separate Bible studies when we have time. And the Greek also has therion, which is widely used as beast. And then zoon this is kind of beasts at God's throne. So these are sometimes translated as living beings or living beasts. And then you have Drakon, which is translated dragon. And Bible uses all different kinds of animals with for different purposes: lion, bear, leopard, wolf, fox, dog, pig, jackal, lamb, goat, ox, bull, camel, etc. So we have Daniel chapter 2 and chapter 7. Daniel 2 sees this statue, and you have statue kingdoms. The head is gold, Babylon, and the shoulders are silver, Medo-Persia Union, and the waist, belly and thighs, they are Greece, and then you have two legs of iron is Rome, and then future 10 kings, Antichrist. So this is feet and clay. So we are now talking about Rome today. Rome is a shadow. Rome is a shadow for this terrible beast that would come. So here we have chapter 7 of Daniel. And chapter 7, Daniel was shown 4 beast kingdoms. Beasts. First is a lion with eagle's wings. This is shadowed by Babylon. Remember, these are modern nations, chapter 7, and these are ancient nations in chapter 2. So there is an equivalent modern nation that is winged lion, and second is beast. Second beast is bear, and third is leopard. So these are like straight animals like lion, bear, and leopard. And fourth is there is no straight animal that it talks about. It's different from first 3. This is the terrible and dreadful and exceedingly strong beast. So you have to gather information from Rome, which is a shadow, and then try to figure out the signatures of this beast. And this is more dreadful and more lethal and monster beast compared to Rome. Rome itself was considered very evil and deadly beast, deadly kingdom, but this supersedes Rome by all means. It is much more cruel and much more lethal and much more like a monster, this modern nation. So first we will go through the Rome and then try to identify these signatures in this shadow, and then we come to the reality of which modern nation this probably is referring to. So I don't give my interpretation. You are welcome to share what you think this nation is. So these are all 4 modern nations. Either they have already come, or they are about to come, they are rising, or they have not arrived yet. There are 3 possibilities, but these all 4 kingdoms, beasts, would come after the 1st century, after the death and resurrection of Son of God. So this is AD, after the death of Christ and his resurrection. So these are modern nations. On the chapter 2 nations, they were all BC nations before Christ, and these are after Christ. So we should keep our antennas up and try to match the signatures. So we would arrive at these 4 beasts. So Daniel 2 is first Babylon, that is head of the statue, and fine gold. This is shown to Nebuchadnezzar. Then Medo-Persia, or Medo-Persian Union, some people would call, breast and arms, that is silver. And Greece is the 3rd kingdom shown to Nebuchadnezzar. Belly and thighs of the statue, and brass is the metal. And Rome, legs of iron. So it's a strong, exceedingly strong. And then the unknown beasts, feet of the statue, iron and clay. This would be prolonged after the Rome loses its power and significance and becomes normal nation like Italy. But this iron and clay mixture of feet will continue until the second coming. And when the second coming comes, the kingdom of God is established. The stone or rock that is made without hands will come and hit the statue where it would hit the feet. So during this period, the second coming happens, the whole statue collapses and would be ground into the powder, and the powder would be carried away by winds, and there would be no longer after the kingdom of God and second coming of Christ happens. So that is Daniel 2. And now Daniel 7. Another interesting thing is little horn. The little horn arrives at the end of the third kingdom, that is after Greece. And also kingdom of God is formally inaugurated during the fourth beast time when Jesus Christ, Yeshua, arrived on scene. He inaugurated the kingdom of God, but it was invisible kingdom. It is not visible to people in general. Only the true church can see. Those who are born again or born from above are able to see and enter into this kingdom. So the true church would be seeking this kingdom, which is available and visible to the true church, but rest could not see. The rest would see this kingdom, the second coming, which comes with great glory and power, and every eye would see this kingdom. So this is interesting. You have to make a note, little horn arrives after the third kingdom in Daniel 2, because the order would change for Daniel 7. So Daniel 7 first is lion with eagle's wings. So this modern kingdom, modern nation, or modern beast kingdom would shadow the Babylon. And then we have bear raised on one side. So this shadows Medo-Persian Union. It's a bear. And then Greece is shadowed by leopard. This leopard shadows Greece. So it has 4 wings of a bird on its back, and it has 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. So it has all the patterns of Greece being played out here. And then it's actually easy to identify these nations. I don't want to go myself ahead, but just if you take the lion, the national emblem of which nation, which modern nation, and bear, which is the national animal of which modern nation or beast kingdom is it? It's easy to identify. And then leopard, and this is little bit difficult, but all the signatures like Alexander, all the military power and the fast movement, and it has 4 wings. Normally the birds will have 2 wings. It was given 4 wings, so it has extra agility. The lightning strikes. And after the demise of its leader, the nation was divided into 4 parts. It's easy to identify. But the Rome is the next kingdom. So the dreadful, terrible, and exceedingly strong. So this is shadowed by Rome. Rome is a shadow, and this is the reality. And it's a great iron teeth, devoured, break in pieces, stamped residue, and it has brass nails and 10 horns. So this not only shadowed by Rome because iron teeth, so this is legs of iron, and it has great iron teeth. It also has brass nails. The brass is the metal code given for Greece. So it shadows Greece also in some ways, maybe the agility power of Greece and the Rome also. Primarily it is a Rome's counterpart. So if we know the signatures of Rome, it's pretty easy to identify this modern nation, which is dreadful and terrible. And it has some leopards features also here. That is brass. Now, after this dreadful beast, you have King Little Horn. Now, Little Horn, if you carefully observe the count, here it comes out of the fourth beast. Fourth beast. 1, 2, 3, 4. In Daniel 2, it comes after the third kingdom. So these cannot be these. So, and the only way these 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 and 5, all these 5, only way they can fit in here is in this during this period. So all of them would fit in here in this box. And then the kingdom of God. So this kingdom of God matches here. So it has to be, they have to be here. Feet, iron and clay. So these are modern nations. And at the end of these 4 entities, we have second coming. And then all of them would be destroyed along with others. They are dismantled and destroyed. And the kingdom is given to the saints. Saints take possession of the whole world and they rule. And earthly thrones are taken down. And Son of God was enthroned in heaven and also enthroned on earth. So let's see a few scriptures. Daniel 2, this Rome, this is the scripture's description. Daniel 2, verse 40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, because it has iron legs also. For as much as iron breaks in pieces, so it breaks in pieces their enemies or any resistance to its power, any challenge to its power, it will break in pieces as with an iron. So this is the feature of this Rome, and subdues all things. Subdues all means all the kingdoms, either external or internal enemies, internal resistance. Subdues with greater force, with a firm iron hand. So it is like an iron hammer. It just falls on anybody. They will be just become flat under the hammer. They will be destroyed. This is the force of Rome. And as the iron that breaks all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. So this is the signature of Roman Empire. And let's see a few verses for the Daniel 7. So Daniel 7 is a future empire. The future empire, very similar to Roman Empire. It has to be a superpower and it has to occupy an unchallenged position, whichever modern nation has. Its authority, its military is unchallengeable. So let's see the signature statements of this modern future empire, or maybe this is already arrived. After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast. God calls it as beast. So the beast is wild beast, and it is terrifying, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. So here the iron legs are there. So that is the iron. Roman Empire is believed to be the first nation that used iron in a big way. And that's also a code for Roman Empire. And they were like iron fist or iron hammer. They were able to rule the other countries, and it became a superpower. But here, the iron is transferred to teeth. because it is a kingdom. Rome is a kingdom in the vision, statue vision of shown to Nebuchadnezzar. But when we come to here, this is a beast. Beast has its power in its teeth and its claws. Teeth and mouth is with which it devours. So here, interestingly, the iron is attributed or attached to its teeth. So it will grind with iron, and it has brass nails. Nails or claws it would use, a beast would use to tear apart. So it has a brass which is like leopard or grease. It borrows from the previous kingdom some of the sophisticated cruelty, we can say. So it has great iron teeth. It devoured and break in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, which has brass nails. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. So this beast is diverse. It's very different. It's incomparably cruel and terrifying and dreadful compared to the other three modern nations that preceded before this. So this is a unique, one-time, terrifying, and terrible superpower. It's unmatched power, and especially the military, and the way it uses its military is unthinkable. And very interesting thing is it had 10 horns. The Rome does not have 10 horns. It has 10 horns. So it's a different beast, and it has 10 horns. 10 horns is very important thing for us, helps us to identify this modern nation. But let's see a few more verses. Daniel 7 verse 15, continuing, Daniel was grieved. Daniel, was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near unto one of them that stood by and asked him the truth of all this. So Daniel is still in the vision, and as the vision is shown, there are lots of angelic beings is standing in the vision. So he walks to one of them and grabs hold of his hand or shirt and asks him, please explain to me what all these things are about. So he told me and made me know the interpretation of the things. Continuing Daniel 7, verse 17, these great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and ever and ever. So the saints would come, kingdom of God will come. So this is the angel's interpretation. So immediately after these 5 kingdoms, 4 beasts plus little horn, this is when the second coming happens. Let's continue. Daniel 7 verse 19. Then I would know the truth of the 4th beast. So he was very curious about the 4th beast. So then he began to understand from this angel's interpretation, which was diverse from all others, exceedingly dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, break in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. So this is the signature statements of this modern nation, modern superpower, unmatched military. So I would like to go to Rome, Roman Empire, and try to compile some of the interesting features of Rome that greatly helps us to identify this modern nation. So the Rome is known for its big stadiums and big events for entertainment and for the amusement of people. And then they use the horses or cavalry as a big part of their military, and they have slaves. Probably they were tied, and it has slavery system well established. They have separate rules for slaves compared to citizens. So we see for the first time that the slaves have no rights. Basically, they have denied every right, and while citizens enjoyed the full freedom for the Rome. And Rome, if you consider, it has several interesting things. Let me first introduce Rome so that we go through the signatures. First, it has federal government. So they have a federal government, and they also have a Senate. So the representatives, wealthy aristocrat Roman citizens, very rich guys, they constituted the Senate. And then you have an emperor or Caesar, they used to call. Caesar, when the Roman Empire began, he used to be part of the Senate. So his title was, he's the first member of the Senate, and remaining others are second, third members of the Senate. So Senate theoretically ruled the Roman Empire, but since he is the first of the Senate members, he was given authority to rule the whole empire. Eventually, the Caesars, they started usurping more and more power over the years and over the generations. A new Caesar would come who would draw more power to himself and try to minimize the Senate. And sometimes they resorted to assassinate the Senate members in order to gain more control. And we see throughout the history of Roman Empire, the Senate played little role and little influence in the Roman politics. So everything revolved around the Caesar. But nevertheless, they have a Senate as well as some kind of a president-like system. That is the political thing. And they have military. It is known for its military force. And the military is highly organized and highly trained. All their enemies also have militaries and warriors, but they were less organized. And they used to put valiant and more skillful fighters in the front and not so skillful fighters in the back. This is about their enemies. But Romans did not make a distinction between the valiant ones or less valiant ones. Everybody is equal. Actually, the military generals would plan the strategy, how to attack. So everybody was given a position. You have to take a position and you should fight with the given arms and armaments. And it's not the individual that would excel. The whole army as one strategic move, one body. The army would move as one body, and more organized, well thought over strategy has actually brought gigantic victories for the Roman armies. Roman armies, they were drafted from the citizens, and there was drafting, compulsory drafting. So if anybody refuses without justification, they will be executed. So everybody has to join, and it varied from Pharaoh, Caesar to Caesar, but it was maintained throughout the tenure of Roman Empire. And the soldiers, when they were recruited, they go through harsh training and rigorous discipline so that nobody would disobey the orders. They want 100% obedience and 100% loyalty to Rome. So that kind of new breed of soldiers were developed, and they have very large army. And there were actually two kinds of military departments. One is legions. Legions are real combatant force. They believed to have several legions, and the legions would go into the battlefront. And other than legions, they have a secondary force, and those forces would assist the legions or would do regular policing work. And we hear about legions in Bible when Romans were ruling Judea. And the third strategy of their military was because when they were about to conquer, when they conquer, they beat their enemies so bad that it serves as a lesson and a terror tactics to rest of the enemies. So first few times they would do complete damage and decimate them as with an iron hammer. And the next time they put the enemies to terror. So they come and negotiate for peace. So they have this pattern of negotiating, and they don't want to directly rule the many nations. They will knock off the powerful king and kings, and they will put a convenient ruler who would 100% obey Rome. So we have a dictator would be established in these countries, and then indirectly they will be ruling this country. They will collect taxes for Rome, and always Roman troops are stationed in these countries where they conquered, directly or indirectly. So it's a show of force, not really conquering the nations. So that's about army, and armies were finally they became so big and so huge. They conquered so many countries. The army was all over the world. They were very thinned out, and there is no place where their army was not there. In the all civilized known world was already conquered by Rome. They extended in the Europe as far as London, and they touched the borders of Africa in the south, and on the east they were into Persia, and I believe it is almost towards Afghanistan. And in the north they extended so far. So you basically Roman Empire expanded to cover the whole civilized world. Either it directly conquered or its influence is felt as a subjugated nations. So that is the extent of Roman Empire. Romans Empire also has signature statements. They are lover of sports. They're madly in love with sports. They spent lots of their time and energies in the sports. Their favorite sport was races and chariot races, and other favorite sports was gladiators. Gladiator is one with a gladiator. It's a sword, a Roman sword, and they will have fight one-on-one, and that's the favorite sport, the gladiators. And they have huge stadiums. One is Colosseum, and you have other similar structures, and they also have several other features, and they are lover of sports. And another signature statement is they have extensive highways and roadways. They have built highways first, and their highways extended to all the conquered nations. Immediately after conquering a new nation, first thing they do is they extend their highways. They radially go out from Rome into all the nations. Actually, the way they laid the roads is almost like a straight line. For example, from Rome to Jerusalem, if you take a map and draw a line, it almost follows that straight line, which is efficient and fast and quick. And their roads are so high quality, it provided So quick and rapid movement of troops and promoted the supplies for the troops and also the trade. So there's a saying that all roads lead to Rome. So they have massive highways, first time in the history of the world, well organized and promoting the military movement as well as trade. They also have huge postal mail system, first time in the world. So they have this highways also promoted the movement of the mail. So it was quick, fast, and very efficient for this huge empire. First time we see the signature pattern of postal mail. And also, first time they have the writings in the form of a bound book. The stacked books are published. Prior to that, either there are long 30 feet scroll which are like rolled, or they were put like in on a relief, like it's a sculpture. But here it's a convenient way to put lots of information which can be easily handled by one person. So that's the another invention. They have lots of science and technology contribution to the world, and that is like their technology, their medicine were great contributions. The whole world looked to Rome with these advances. They also they are very sanitation aware people. So they are the first ones to build sewage systems, first class sewage systems for their age, for their period in history. And they have enormous technology that they have built. So there's so many signatures. If you consider one signature after other and document them, I think it's easy to identify the modern nation. Okay, let's see few features of the Roman Empire. They have a Senate. This is the picture of Senate, and they have Senate members and probably speaker or Caesar. We don't know it is. It is just a picture, artistic rendition. So they have very similar system to the modern nations. And this is a typical Roman soldier. And this sword is called gladiator, and he's called gladiator. And they have a shield and the sword, and he has also a spear. These are the basic tools, and they have a huge helmet and also breastplate, and they have good shoes also, and they have protective wear for the first foot. So these are various artistic renditions of Roman soldier. Remember, this is a dreadful and terrible beast, its shadow. So we have to speak about its military. And they have very highly organized military, and they have legions, and all these legions are very well organized, well trained, and they move like columns like this, and they're very strategic. Their opponents do not have this benefit of organized military. The organized generals, military generals, and strategists, they don't have that. They are loose fighters, and they would always lose out to this highly trained, highly organized, strategic Roman troops. And they are vicious. The Rome, when they come, you can see the ferocity of their armies. This picture, I think, shows the blood flowing and splattering all across, and they're like ferocious animals. No wonder God calls them beasts. If this is Rome, the modern nation, its counterpart, modern nation, is much more terrifying in terms of its military. And also they have this kind of unique phase formation when you have 360-degree attack. So they were guarded 360 degrees by their shields, and you have inside, you have the archers, and then this column moves, protecting itself with 360 degrees. This reminds me of the commandos we have in modern times. When we have an active shooter, the commandos, US commandos, would go in this similar formation. All four sides they would be guarding, and they will move closer to the building where it is currently in the lockdown because of an active shooter. So some of these strategies were very much used by modern nations and modern military forces. And then these are the favorite pastime. They're lover of sports, and they spend great deal of money, great deal of their time and energies in watching these sports events. And they're also known for the cruelty of their punishments, and they have several torture programs, and they are pretty sophisticated. And this is crucifixion upside down. And Apostle Peter, believed to have been crucified like this, upside down. You can see the terror of people crucified live when the spectators are watching. And these are the people who would be crucified shortly. And Roman Empire, the Christianity was banned for most of its tenure until Constantine came and made it official religion. Up to such time, you cannot publicly call yourself Christian. You will be executed. So Christians kind of silenced themselves, and most people thought Christians would be a part of Jewish sect. So they were viewed as Jewish or Jews because Jews enjoyed the complete protection and freedom of religion, and they can practice freely their religion, but not Christians. And Christians oftentimes were camouflaged as Jews. But if somebody can find out, your neighbor can find out that you are Christian, not a Jew, he can go and complain against authorities. And then they will call you and ask you to take an oath to deny Christ and worship the emperor. And if you fail to do that, they will execute you, either cross or by other, perhaps hanging. So the Christians were at the utmost danger during most of the tenure of the Roman Empire. So it was very difficult for Christians to openly embrace their Christian beliefs or to do the evangel. So it's a cruel system itself, even in the shadow. And the reality, the spiritual reality, the modern nation would be somewhat similar. When we come to the modern nation, it may not be antagonist to the general Christians, but surely it would be to true Christians. And which modern nation has the torture as official government program, which has more sophisticated torture? And crucifixion would be insignificant compared to the modern torture programs the nations have. So, and this is another form of sport, gladiator. Two persons, opponents, would fight each other unto death. One of them has to die, and this guy becomes victorious. And you see the jubilation of the spectators and the crowds. This is a sport. They also have wrestling matches, and they have Olympics. They're lover of sports and races. Which country has highest lover of sports and races? You can figure out. It's not hard. And this is highways. The highways were very elaborate and very well connected, and all roads lead to Rome. And this is what we see today with the excavations. And many people wonder, it doesn't look very nice. It looks like clumsy ups and downs. But this is not the case actually when the road was laid. In the Roman times, this is what you see now after 2000 years. But originally when they were built, they were different. You can see here. So the stones were there and they put that dirt and mud and make it a well flat surface. See the road, how it looked like in the Roman times. There was an easy and smooth movement of chariots, horses, and even the travelers and horse and buggies can move much faster. But this dirt and soil would be washed away by rains, and this is what you see now as in this diagram. And then they have they have very sophisticated sanitation system. This is what their toilets look like. Person would typically sit here and there is a flowing water all through, and that would wash away all the things that are excreted. And these are community or communal toilets. There's no individual independent toilets. Everybody would sit here and do their business. And while they are doing the business, they also make quick friends. And I read somewhere in the commentary, this is the favorite place they would socialize with each other while doing their business. So you can see this is how the toilets looked like in 2000 years ago. Now, no wonder we have highly developed, sophisticated sanitation now. Well, that brings almost to the close of the presentation. But Romans have open mind to assimilate other cultures and other gods and other good things from the nations that they conquer. And while they preserve the autonomy and their religious freedom for all the subjugated nations, including Judea, they also embrace all the good things to themselves. It's kind of melting pot in terms of technology, in terms of religious assimilation. So it grew and it has tolerance in one sense and very intolerant in other sense. Especially to Christians, they're very intolerant most of their life until Constantine came into picture. So that helps us to identify some patterns of Roman Empire, and that will bring us to the conclusion of today's presentation. So we will open the room for discussions and feedback and your insight into this.
Okay, if anybody has any questions or thoughts or ideas, you can just raise your hand and present that idea or give it out. Alan?
Yeah, I noticed when we say the beast that is dreadful and terrible, it doesn't have anything similar in nature. Like when you talked about the lion and the leopard and the bear, we all can identify with those beasts. Those are natural animals. But this great and dreadful and terrible beast is not a natural animal. It's not a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's not a rhinoceros. It's not something that we can identify visually. But it does describe its features, its physical features, and its behavior. So that's one thing about this dreadful beast. It's not a natural animal. At least not as we think of it. And maybe that, I was thinking early on, maybe it combines all the qualities and characteristics of the previous three. It combines the characteristics of the lion, because the lion is known for his teeth, right?
Yep.
And the bear for his claws, and the nails are mentioned, has brass nails. So it could be something of a combination of those other beasts and more on top of that. Anyway, that just occurred to me while you were early on in the presentation, in the imagery that we were putting up on the screen.
Yeah, that's true. It is very unlike other kingdoms in the entire history up to that point. This is just before second coming. Whichever this dreadful beast is, it is unlike. There is no parallel in the history. It is such a dreadful, such a terrible and terrifying. But it does carry the signatures of Roman Empire, because Roman Empire was its shadow. So you're right.
In a way, it's a hybrid.
That's correct.
It doesn't have a predecessor that equals it. Like all animals that procreate, they produce more of the same. This one doesn't have a predecessor that's similar to it, or at least not one that is equal to it in its power and its ability to dominate and control.
Willard? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I just wonder if it could be AI. That occurred to me while we were looking at that. I can't elaborate. I've not thought it through, but
AI. Are you saying it is artificial intelligence?
could be. I mean, it doesn't resemble anything that could be identified in ancient times, and it's so different than anything that's known so far.
Okay. Thanks for the input. Any other thoughts?
As you were describing the ruthlessness of its army and its power and how it rises up, every time you brought it up, Revelation came up about the whore riding the beast, and once the whore is thrown, the beast goes on a march. There's nothing stops it. It's ruthless. It's almost as if the whore riding the beast is controlling it. And once they've had enough of her, it goes on a rampage. And it's the same thing. You have the Caesar, you have the government running the countries or the empire, and when they're thrown off, the empire goes into chaos, or a dictator takes over. Usually that's the pattern. You have a good government and it falls into a dictatorship. So I see a lot of parallels between Daniel's beast, the horrible beast, and the beast of Revelation. Now, the descriptions are a little different. One's got 10 heads, the other one's got 10 horns, and there's differences, but I'm just wondering if they're actually the same or similar.
Especially Revelation 13 and 17.
Right.
One of the beasts is composite beast. It has the lion, leopard, and bear. Mm-hmm. All these things are built into that. This guy almost looks like that guy.
Yeah, just
he has also 10 horns. This dreadful beast has 10 horns, which Rome does not have. And from the 10 horns, a little horn would come. Little horn would be the next presentation next Tuesday. Probably I'll take 2 presentations for little horn. This is mega subject. So that would uproot 3 of the 10. So you're left with 7, and the little horn becomes 8. And that does all the dirty work. the main persecution, killing of true Christians is done by little horn. So Daniel is very clear about that. And the little horn, I will tie up to the Revelation 11. The beast that ascends out of bottomless pit would come and make war with against two witnesses, would overcome them and kill them. You have same signature for the little horn and the beast that ascends from the bottomless pit. So that's where we are driving the signature match.
Mhm.
So Willard, when you say AI is a technology, but you have to somehow reconcile the signatures of Roman Empire to this AI to make a case for it.
I don't think we have yet seen the final form that AI is surely to take. So it's all in speculation, but I can see the possibility of it subordinating humans entirely and enslaving and extreme cruelty. A lot of the characteristics of this beast that we're referring to it would be a government unto itself, because it would be able to control everything.
Okay, thank you. Alan?
Yeah, coming off the heels of what Willard just said, today we have an electronic trail or an electronic record of every single activity that we participate in. There's cameras in every environment that you go into. People have these things in their homes that listen to them. They listen to your words in the privacy of your own home.
Mm-hmm.
My wife will ask Siri, say, Siri, what's the definition of this word? And Siri immediately on her phone tells her what it is, because Siri is continually listening to every single word that you speak.
Yeah.
And so we have all these things. We have GPSs that identify where you are on the map at every moment. And you're carrying it in your pocket, right? And we've all become addicted to these devices that let whoever would want to monitor me know where I'm at. Am I at the store? Am I on the highway, going down the highway? And there's no escape now. We're in a place now in human history when we've come into an era where there's no escaping this electronic record or trail. Every modern institution, medical institutions, educational, the judicial institution, the criminal justice, scientific institutions, economic institutions, the industrial and the medical institution, military, and there is no way to escape the reach, you could put it that way. The reach that is now made available to those who are in control. And they also have the ability to dominate, to manipulate information, to sway the masses by manipulating information, and to control all resources, food, water, fuel. They control every single resource. And then Willard brings up AI, which makes a major new contribution to the list that I just mentioned. So we certainly live in unique times. And I'm not going to say that because of all these things that this is that beast, but we live in times that can very easily lead to that kind of domination and control, forcefully so, where all freedoms could be lost. At least, let me put it this way, at least the freedom to be Christian could be challenged and compromised at some point along the way. I don't see that happening today or tomorrow, but I do think that because of the current condition of the electronic world, that we certainly have the potential to, all you need is an emergency, right? Such as in 9/11, we had the Patriot Act, which immediately gave government powers the ability to violate many rights that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Give us another emergency. Give us another terrorist act. Each time, it's going to increase the potential to strip away what we once had, whether that be privacy, whether that be practice, whatever that may be. So it seems to be on the horizon. But I also must add, I think you and I are going to grow old and die before it comes to fruition. And most people do not agree with me on that.
That's a
All
good
right,
question.
I'm done.
Interestingly, what you said, we had a pattern in ancient Rome. Roman Empire, the first Caesar did not have that much power. He was part of Senate. But if you come to the last Caesar, he has everything in his hands. He almost like reduced Senate to just a body, just a group of bunch of people with no power at all. So slowly they acquired all the power to themselves. They became great dictators, and there was lots of abuse, domestic as well as international. And people were fed up, and they were also increasing taxes, more taxes, as the new Caesar would come. And finally, it became unbearable for the Roman citizens to pay taxes. So that's the pattern we have in Roman Empire. And they have welfare. They couldn't support welfare, so they had to do more taxation. And they have thinning out of their armies. The armies were spread across this huge empire, and they were not able to defend their country any longer because of these new Vandals, new forces that have come to attack, and they could penetrate the borders and come and control, like defeat the Rome and then take the Caesar into custody. Finally, when Rome fell, Western Rome fell. So you have a pattern there of more dictatorial.
When did it actually fall? When did the Vandals actually sack Rome? Was that like 385?
Somewhere around after Constantine, there are a few more Caesars. And after that, first there was a division, Eastern Roman Empire and Western Roman Empire. West fell first, and East continued for several years because they were getting lots of money from trade and revenue. So they survived for quite some time, and then they also fell. You have two capitals for the Roman Empire, pictured by two iron legs.
Constantinople. was the other leg
Yeah.
after Rome. Yeah.
Which became Istanbul now in Turkey.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the parallels are eerie. There was a man who wrote a book called The Modern Romans, and it was circulating in the churches of God back in the 1980s. And there were some people that were talking about that book and comparing I think a lot of it had to do with the games. The Roman games were being compared to modern football. But there were many other features about modern life that also were in that book. And so that book got a considerable amount of circulation as a kind of a prophetic. It was called The Modern Romans.
Again, another feature was LGBT. It's a big in Rome, and it was well accepted.
Yeah.
For this entire week, I was studying Rome. So they have a lot more signatures, actually. And we are not the first ones to study that. Lots of people, lots of Christians have studied Rome, and they documented several points, and then they were looking for something like Rome, but more dreadful and more terrifying. And they have their own take, which entity now we are seeing more like that. And some of these entities probably have not come to full shape. They are still under transformation. And once they reach their final stage, final state, then we see the exact matching with Rome. And this guy is one time, like Christ clearly said in Matthew 24, such tribulation you haven't seen. It is not in the past, nor would it be in the future. It is one-time event in the history of mankind. Unless those days are shortened, no flesh would be saved alive.
Right.
So we're reaching a climax of human history when this dreadful and terrifying nation comes into existence. And actually, God has to come back. Christ has to come back and put a stop to this system. And this guy supports this little horn. Little horn is more sinister than anybody else. That little horn actually kills Christians. So more about little horn next time.
Alan?
Another aspect of this is that we haven't touched on really is the demonic influence and forces that are behind the whole thing. That there are demons penetrating into all the nations today and have been, for centuries. But for some reason, when Satan knows he has a short time, he's going to become enraged, and the other demons also will rage with him. And so these things that we've seen in modern age, these despots, these leaders that are pushing demonic ideas, like Karl Marx and Lenin and Stalin, who they did those things to their own people, and what Mao did to China, and many others who genocided their own people. These are demonic movements. These aren't just the evil that men do. These are demonic forces in the hearts and minds of men that are intent on creating the most human misery possible. And most people today are not educated as to what kind of misery actually took place in the 20th century. It's a horrible thing to consider what these men did to their own people in China and in Russia, and in other places throughout Africa and Asia, even. I mean, we don't like to focus on the negative. It's not a happy time to focus on the negative, but if you're a student of history, you know what I'm talking about. The human misery quotient has been higher, even though technology has provided greater conveniences. The human misery quotient has been higher in the past 100 years than ever throughout human history. And most people are not aware of that. This is because of demonic activity. And all that I think that you talked about tonight, that which is coming yet ahead of us, is also going to be the increased intensity of the demonic activity. And that's why the church is going to be, as it says, the power of the holy people will be shattered and will wear out the saints. So we need to also add that into the mix, the demonic influence.
That's very, very not, I don't want to use the word possible. It's obvious. There's a greater demonic activity. We have a hint in Book of Daniel. Archangel Gabriel was sent to Daniel, and he was stopped by Prince of Persia. So he had to wait for 20 plus some days, and he couldn't come to Daniel to give the message, to interpret chapter 7 beasts. So the Gabriel was held back, and Gabriel has to wait for another archangel, Michael, to come and fight against Prince of Persia. And then the Gabriel can come and give that interpretation to Daniel, this vision. So, and Gabriel, Archangel Gabriel, also says that now we have dealt with Prince of Persia, and the Prince of Greece would come shortly. So the next, after Persia, you have Greece. So Prince of Greece, he said he will come. These are demonic, high-level demonic dark rulers of these individual kingdoms. That's a very important statement. He said, like, even before Greece arrived on scene, he's saying the Prince of Greece would come. So the Prince of Greece would come, and Greece would be raised, and Greece would do its work based on the Prince of Greece. That tells me that later on, Prince of Rome would come, and the Rome would be ruled by another prince. So looking at the pattern in the shadows, we have greater confidence and authenticity that these modern nations would no doubt be moved by this dark princess.
Yeah, we're warned about that, even in this term called vain philosophies. See that you be not deceived by vain philosophies, by spiritual wickedness in high places, all those kinds of things. When you think about philosophies that have damaged, Karl Marx was not a political leader. He was a philosopher. So what a lot of people don't realize, Karl Marx was the philosopher, and it was his ideas, that philosophy that was demonically influenced, that brought about the fall of the czars in Russia and the rise of Vladimir Lenin. And after Lenin was was Stalin. So Lenin and Stalin implement this demonic idea. And this is how it comes to us. It comes to us through philosophies and ideas that people think are answers to problems, but it's a great deception. So when we talk about deception, we have to include things like philosophical ideas that take you down a pathway to destruction. So I believe Karl Marx, the philosopher, was demonically influenced, and that when Lenin and Stalin did what they did, it was due to the cascading effect of demons.
You're right. Some of these philosophers, maybe all of them, were moved by demon spirits. They go into trance some long periods of time and they get their ideas. And Aristotle was the main influencing philosopher for Alexander the Great. And Nietzsche is another philosopher Hitler was strongly and fully influenced by. So you have this pattern, historical pattern of philosophers affecting the leaders. So this dreadful beast, when it comes, pretty sure like we have a pattern. Some demonic philosophers would influence these politicians or dictators of this dreadful, terrible beast.
Yeah, so if we watch closely the philosophical world and we see what's coming around the bend that's arriving soon, we can kind of understand the next demonic influence that's coming. Because it looks like an angel of light when it comes. It appears to be an answer to problems. It appears that it's going to bring all the desired fruits of peace and prosperity. But the reality is that these are demons who are deceptive. And I think that we would do well to expect that the next major philosophical movement is a demonic movement. No matter how good it looks on the outside.
For us, true Christians, you're right. There are two challenges. One is deception, false doctrine. Second is persecution. Persecution would not take away our salvation. We will die. But the deception could. The false doctrine could. That is more lethal and dangerous for us Christians. But for others, the general people, there will be bloodshed and loss of life. We also see, like, if you bring other things from Revelation and things we studied so far, there is Euphrates River. At that, the high-level demonic beings were put on restraint. That restraint is removed and they were released from Euphrates. Similarly, the bottomless pit was also opened up and some demonic forces would come out. So they come out as locusts, spiritual locusts. The other place, Euphrates, they come out as frogs. So you can expect greater demonic activity when these events happen. So no wonder we have dreadful and terrible beast. In most of the COGs, I believe people have studied Roman Empire at length. People are more familiar with the Roman Empire, I believe. Yeah. It's not totally new information that I presented tonight.
No, it's not, but the Roman Empire laid the foundation to a lot of things, transportation, mail, finance. And you look at, like I said, I'm comparing with Revelation. It seems to be money. She's the whore. I just wonder if, the whore has anything to do with the little horn. because it's after. Well, the little horn is the one that does the murdering, and it's after that point she is drunk with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus Christ and the blood of the saints. So, it's tying those two together and time wise. I don't know.
You're right. I believe in the same way you're saying, Don. These three entities would merge, for me at least, with my research. The Mystery Babylon, this little horn, and one of the 8 beasts in Revelation, and the beast that ascends from bottomless pit. These seem to be doing same work of killing saints, the blood of martyrs.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some signatures bringing them, all the 3 entities together into one. I'm not the only one seeing that. Like, there are few people I listen to, they also feel same way.
Well, you have to also try to answer the question of what the 3 horns that are replaced, how does that fit where the little horn gets rid of 3 other horns?
Yeah.
So who would these other 3 be who are being disposed of or brushed aside, you could say? Or maybe they're just marginalized and minimized in their power and influence. Maybe they're not destroyed, they're just brushed aside.
Yeah, they're no longer be a stable country or stable kingdom. There's a big anarchy possibility for these 3 kingdoms, 3 horns that it uproots, and it becomes 8. And this has very fascinating, very interesting signatures. That little horn guy, it opens its mouth and blasphemes against those who dwell in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So
It has, yeah.
Do you think that's the same man of sin from 2 Thessalonians 2?
Mm-hmm. Similar, sounds similar. It has a lot more information. Actually, Little Horn has a lot more information than any of these previous beasts. So much is given in Daniel. So this is obviously important.
We don't see the little horn when we see the 10 toes.
We don't see 10 toes little horn because toes are different symbology. Toes are not horns.
No.
Toes, if you look from the statue perspective, it is kind of statue disintegrated into 10. 10 means like completely different. N number of kingdoms, kings, iron and clay. So that kind of disintegration state. There will be constant fighting between the clay and iron. They don't mix, but they try to mingle. There will be issues. That's the state of affairs. But
they don't bond. Yeah, they don't bond together.
Yeah, the little horn is supported by this dreadful beast. This mega beast, you see, this is a massive superpower. This massive superpower, imagine like a huge big animal, beast. Mm-hmm. On this, the small guy, little horn, we were not given gender of this. This little horn kind of rules and dictates. You see the similar pattern in Book of Revelation 17-18. Mystery Babylon is a woman riding this massive beast, the world superpower, but that woman drives this beast. Controls and drives the. At one point, you will be confused who is supporting whom. Is it beast supporting the woman or woman kind of supporting the beast? Mm-hmm. It's very tricky interdependencies. So you see these two pictures kind of merge. And then the beast that ascends out of bottomless pit. And this is eighth. Eighth is another connecting signature.
Eight, right.
So eighth, 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 wherever you have eight, which is of 7, which is of 6. So some things are also merging. So we are talking about one thing, all the while we were thinking there are 3 different entities. So that's where I'm seeing same where Don is seeing.
I mean, Revelation 18. Well, actually, go back to Revelation 17, 16. And the 10 horns which he saw upon the beast, these hate the whore. So there's already there's a hatred there, but she's in charge. And the mighty waters is great nations, peoples, multitudes. She's over everything.
Yeah.
There's a parallel between the whore and the mighty beast. Yeah, and the woman you saw is a great city that reigns over all the kings of the earth. So
Another interesting fact is the beast doesn't care if you know who he is because there's nothing you can do about it. The great whore, there's nothing you can do about her. You can't stop her. You can't influence other people to stop her. So it's kind of like when the Illuminati was secretive, they stayed hidden, but now they're out in the open and they say, here we are, here's our official website, here's our organization. They don't care if you know because there's nothing you can do about it.
mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with the beast and the false prophet and the whore. If you can identify them, they don't care because you have no power to do anything about it, to prevent it.
Right.
The power is on one side. The power we have is the power God gave us to be saints, to be faithful, to remain faithful. Now that power we do have, but we don't have power to prevent evil and wickedness in high places from being pervasive over the globe. We don't have that power because that's prophetic and it has to happen. But they don't care if you identify them. They feel
too
no
small
threat.
for them.
Put it this way, you're not in any way able to threaten, so they don't feel threatened by you identifying them, which is an interesting fact. I mean, they don't have to keep it secret.
And Mary, you have something to say?
Yeah, I agree with Alan too. And that's why I believe it's so important. Like my family, they're not believers, but I stay calm and I insert my little tidbits in when I can because they won't listen anyways. But I agree with you, Alan. That's why, like you said, we have to stay faithful. That's what I'm trying to do.
And that's the power we were given. We were provided with a spirit of power to remain faithful in the face of opposition, in the face of persecution, in the face of hatred, and even unto death. That's why I like that song, Faith of Our Fathers. It says, faith of our fathers, holy faith, we will be true to thee till death. I like that song because it reminds me that I don't know if I'm going to be made a martyr or not. Probably not, because we're not in that day today. And I'm coming up on 67 years old, so I'm probably not going to be a martyr, but none of us know for sure. what the end of our life is. And since we don't know, we should consider that. There's a possibility, but we will be true to thee till death. Singing a song like that is a good reminder that you have received power.
There is another factor we should keep it in mind. There's a huge information suppression. So we don't know really what is happening around us.
Right.
So you should learn to read in between the lines to some extent with spiritual discernment. And maybe it is happening. We don't know.
Yeah, information is very controlled right now.
Yeah.
Oh, and then you have all the magic going on. There's something they don't want you to see, so they set up an illusion of an event to hide another event.
Yeah, look at the shiny object over here. Meanwhile, over here, there's some crazy thing going on. Distraction. Yeah, every time there's a big event in the news, I always wonder, is there really something else going on? And they just put this big event up there just to distract everybody.
And it's called a red flag event, is what they call it.
Red herring. Yeah.
Oh, well. Yeah, Revelation 18:4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, that you may not partake of her sins, that you not partake of her plagues." Another one to remember. Don't be with the system.
You have to come out of something. God is clear. So you have to figure out what is that something and come out of it. At least you know something that is a sinful system. Don't partake of her sins so that you will not partake of her plagues.
You have to live in the world, but you don't have to be of the world.
That would be a good.
Oops.
Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna say good night, and
All right.
I'll hear everybody on Friday. Thank you, Dakar. That was very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Emily.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Actually, if you go through, as we are combing the raw scriptures now, if you comb all the scriptures, picture gets clearer and clearer. It gets a little bit easy to identify the entities. Little horn, the dreadful beast, the leopard, the bear, and the lion.
So why is the horn little? That means it appears to be littler than the others. If a horn appeared littler or smaller in stature, it would seem less threatening. It would seem like less of a hazard or a risk. So it comes across as, oh, I'm just a little horn. Don't worry about me. I'm little.
Mm-hmm.
But a little horn could also be the remnant. Like if you're dehorning a cow or and you do it wrong, you will get a little horn. And there is scripture about a wound. It got a deadly wound that it recovered from. That came to mind tonight too. Could that wound be the little horn coming up from the root of a big horn that was previously cut or damaged? And it's more of a vengeful kind of thing because these guys tried to cut me out of the deal. Now he's growing up and he's going to cut them out. You know, these are just things crossing my mind.
Yeah, there's a reason it's a little horn. And whatever that little represents is important, I think.
Yeah, it's not viewed as a superpower. It's not a mega beast.
Mm-mm.
It's a small power, but controls lots of things. And it has a very interesting demonic possession. It is possessed with the devil, the whole little horn. It has another level of intelligence than human beings normally have. If you go through its signatures, it has eyes, like it has like it. The description is very weird of this entity.
How many eyes does it have? 10 or 7?
No, it has it. I don't remember offhand. Next time we will go through each of them. But the Mystery Babylon also seems very close to this little horn. Its signatures almost like you can't miss this, like coming together. There are several small signature statements. When you read through chapters, you miss them. You go very slow. Like you stop at every phrase and every sentence and every verse and spend some 15 to 20 minutes. Otherwise, you're going to miss, like, I sit as a queen, I'm no widow. That's a big statement. So the little horn also has several signature statements that kind of how do we put, like it rings the bells. Somewhere else, somewhere in the Old Testament, we see that phrase.
Daniel 7:25. He speaks great words against Most High. Shall wear out the saints.
Yeah, it's more stout than its fellows. The word stout has a special meaning in Hebrew.
Probably means more sturdy or stronger.
It understands sinister schemes.
Oh,
It is not normal IQ. Like it's completely possessed by demons. The way it's a little horn, still it controls the whole beast. Big, huge, mega beast superpower it controls, even though it's a little. So how is it possible? And people wonder and follow after this beast. Oh, who is like this beast? Who is great like this beast? Who can make war against this beast? And they follow and worship this beast, this little horn. And the beast that was, is not, shall ascend. That's another signature statement. This disappeared from history for several centuries, and it came back. Several centuries is just my understanding, but for a long time, the beast that was, is not, shall come. Shall come, again you have different renditions of it. Shall ascend out of bottomless pit, and it does its dirty work and then goes into perdition.
And eyes and mouth speaking great.
Yeah, it has eyes and mouth speaking great things. Right? What does it mean, eyes? It's wisdom. Eye is a metaphor for wisdom.
it would have the wisdom that demons have, but not the wisdom of God.
No.
Negative.
It's all
So-
negative connotations.
It would not be able to understand the wisdom of God. So its wisdom is a wisdom that is earthly and sensual and demonic,
Correct.
as James points out.
That's true. It's the, I guess you can build on that, James. But the way the political and military manipulation, that's what most hinted, most thrust is on that.
Hmm.
In the sequence is talking about kingdoms, politics, military. In that context, this little horn comes and the description is given. It's much political level. It's not false brethren and false teachers. Even though you could make a case for it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Just thinking aloud. In Daniel 7:8, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them a little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, which leaves 7. How many horns are on the beast in Revelation?
10.
10.
7 heads and 10 horns.
Okay.
Here also there are 10 horns on the 4th beast of Daniel.
Yeah.
3 it uproots and it becomes 8 from the remaining 7
Right.
in Daniel. But in Revelation, one of the heads is wounded and its deadly wound is healed and it comes back.
Right.
So you have some signature statement matching with the beast that was, is not, and shall ascend. The deadly wound was healed and the beast comes back. We're touching multiple books and multiple entities now.
Mm-hmm.
Once we get familiar, it gets a little bit easy to at least do the analysis. What else is there for little horn in Daniel?
They war with the saints and prevail against them.
Mhm. You have 2 places. One, Daniel is shown. The second is angel's interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
Little bit further down in same chapter.
Yeah.
Well, I know that we like to assign certain symbols to nations, like Greece and Persia and Rome. But I'm wondering if maybe the end time system, it isn't a nation, it's a system that's pervasive globally. It's not a nation, it's a system.
That's a good possibility. So these beasts can span across multiple nations. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
It's a system. It's a beast system.
Yeah.
Right. But if you go by shadow, those were real kingdoms.
Yeah.
Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome. It's not necessary that they should follow the same pattern. But
Well, are there things in the Babylonian Empire that might have been the foundational thought or drive of the Roman? I mean, I know Mike Waters was studying a lot on Babylonian financial law, rules, regulations about borrowing, finance, exchange, exchanging of land, holding. They had a whole financial system that was highly regulated. If we would follow those rules today, it was, well, again, this was his research. What he was telling me was that they were way ahead of their time financially.
Well, maybe they could stop inflation.
yeah, but Rome had inflation, it seems.
Oh yeah.
But I would take it one step farther back. I think we have to go back to Nimrod to look at foundational things. We can't just go back to Rome or to Persia or Greece or any of those. They borrowed much of what they had from the civilization before them. It'd be, which would be the Assyrian, and then before the Assyrian, who was before the Assyrian Empire? It was the Phoenicians, maybe. But we have to go back to Nimrod to see foundations of Babylon, to see that it's about gathering into cities and controlling, and to see that it's an attempt to ascend into the heavens outside of the instruction of God, and to make a culture that is self-sufficient outside of, because he was a mighty hunter against the Lord. And so isn't Nimrod really the initial representation of the system before Nebuchadnezzar ever came around?
Yeah, let us build a city and a tower. Let's have our own name, not God's name.
And besides that, Nebuchadnezzar, he repented at the end of chapter 4.
The person of Nebuchadnezzar probably repented, but the Babylon as a whole continued as the beast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it might be better to go back to Nimrod rather than start at the time of Daniel.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot about Babylon in Jeremiah 51 and 52, which for the most part was all written before the height of the Babylonian Empire, right? Especially including the downfall of Babylon. Comparing Jeremiah 52 to some of what we find in Revelation 18.
Yeah, 17, 18, very similar phrases.
Right.
Yeah.
Babylon has fallen, has become the habitation of devils, and behold, every foul spirit, caged and unclean and hateful bird.
Yeah, unclean birds. That's an interesting phrase. In Zechariah, was it chapter 4? It says, what do you see? He said, I see an ephah. And what do you see in it? A woman. And 2 unclean birds called storks. lift the ephah and carry it to a land called Shinar, which is Babylon. And he says to Zechariah, this is wickedness. You remember that?
Yeah.
There's a woman in the ephah, in the basket. Some translations will just say, I see a basket, and a woman is in it. And they put a lid on it, and the two unclean birds carry it to Shinar. And this is wickedness. There's some symbology in there having to do with unclean birds delivering a basket of wickedness,
Mm-hmm.
which is, it could be a little difficult to interpret all that, but some of it seems pretty simple. A wicked woman.
Uh-huh. When he talked about unclean birds, who was it that was being fed daily by ravens in the desert during the drought?
It's Elijah.
Yeah. So you have an unclean bird bringing food. That's kind of like, is there any meaning behind that?
And also to Nebuchadnezzar, God tells him via Daniel that I have given beasts of the field and birds of the air to you, unto your control and authority. To Nebuchadnezzar. That's an interesting statement. So the ancient Babylon is a shadow of the mystery Babylon in the Revelation. So we have to be thorough with shadow.
Are you talking about Daniel's Babylon or Nimrod?
Both actually.
Okay.
The teachers that I listen to, they start with Nimrod, Shinar, and then they come to Nebuchadnezzar, and they have like Jeremiah, Isaiah, a few books specifically deal with Babylon. And some other books indirectly deal with Babylon. And they explore all those things and then come to Revelation 17 and 18. And you see actually in 16 also about Babylon. 16 there are a couple of verses, actually 17 and 18 are explanation. It's an interlude. The story suddenly stops and goes in a rabbit trail. The rabbit trail is 17 and 18 about Babylon, but the context you get it in 16, the flow of events.
So if we're talking about an era at the close of the age where there's both Babylon and Roman features, I wonder if the exceedingly dreadful and terrible beast could be a combination of those two features, the Babylonian strengths and abilities and the Roman strengths and abilities. Much of what Rome had was learned from the Greeks. Their architecture was learned from the Greeks.
Yeah, they're part of Greeks.
Their Senate, the Greeks had a Senate 300 years before Rome.
Yeah.
So much of what Rome had was borrowed or inherited, put it that way. It was inherited technology and science and politics all, and even much of the development of their military was more advanced than what the Greeks had, but they got a lot from the Greeks initially.
Yeah.
Where did the Greeks get it? They got it from the Persians before Greece rose up to power, right?
Yeah.
And the Persians got it from Babylon. So we trace it back. If we trace back both technology, political prowess and advancements, we keep going back, we go to Nimrod. And so at the end, we combine Babylon with Rome. And those two things together seem to be both present.
But when you come to Revelation, you have a single beast. The beast and the false prophet is polarized into two entities. The beast is political and this is somewhat religious, the false prophet. Everything rotates around these two guys.
Well, we do have to remember this. When Babylon is fallen, who is it that weeps and mourns? It's the merchants of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
They are not the religious, they are not the political, they are the business. They're the economic engine, so to speak. So there's that element also. They're the ones who are weeping and mourning over the smoke of her ascension.
That's possible in one layer, but the other layers, the merchants could be just religious guys. The buying and selling is not really commercial activity; it's a religious activity. There are good evidence in another layer. There are multi-layers, right?
So much. They are at loss.
I am gravitating more towards the false prophet being primary beneficiary of this beast and the worship of the beast. It promotes the worship of the beast and to create an image, to make an image to the beast and worship the image of the beast as well as beast. And it gives power, pneuma, to the image of the beast, so that image of beast will both speak as well as cause those who do not take the mark of the beast to be killed. So false prophet does lots of work for beast, even though they hate each other. So if you are sitting in the bosom of false prophet for so long, what you would be expected to do? You worship the beast, obey the beast. If you are coming out of the beast system, or worshipping, or valuing, or looking favorably towards the beasts, that's a strong indication you are coming out of the bosom of false prophet. These are logically relationships.
And they're mutually exclusive.
They are exclusive of one another. They cannot be same. So when you come to Babylon, it has religious features as well as political features. So where do you make it fall? It's a debatable thing.
So then buying and selling, no one can buy or sell unless they worship the beast, or the image of the beast. So that you're saying that buying and selling is not actually buying and selling, because the merchants weep and mourn, but that has to do with the religious loyalty and the religious commitment. Is that what you were saying?
Let me give you a verse in Proverbs.
Okay.
Buy truth, do not sell it.
Okay.
So you take buying and selling from scriptures. If you compile all of them, there is a shift towards religious business. I know Fred Coulter and others, they think they are multinationals. Those would weep, like big mega multinational companies. Those would be weeping in Revelation 18 when the Babylon is burnt. But there is less evidence for that. There's more evidence towards some religious beneficiaries are weeping now. The captains of ships. Ships is another big example. Christ sat in his ship and preached, and the fish were brought into the ship. So it's a kind of gospel going out and bringing people into the kingdom. But you have false system, you have false ships also bringing people into the ship. So the captains of 50, captains of 100, and the ships, now they don't have business because this guy is gone. So they were building everything on this one entity, Mystery Babylon. When it is burnt, nobody would believe them, their lies.
Yes.
So there's a loss of business. Like that's how I am approaching. I'm not saying necessarily I'm right, but this is the approach I'm taking currently now. I'm leaning towards religious rather than pure commercial.
Okay, let me add some fuel to your fire.
Mhm.
Ho, everyone who thirsts, come to the waters, and you who have no money, come here, buy and eat.
Mhm.
Yes, come and buy wine and milk without money
Mhm.
and without price.
Mhm.
Why do you spend your money for what is not bread and your wages for what does not satisfy? So here we have buying and selling being associated with drinking and eating the things that God feeds us with, the truth of God and His instruction for us. He's saying you can buy that without money.
Mhm.
So it kind of fits in with Proverbs.
What is the second portion of that, what you said? Buy this without price. Then there's a question, why do you spend your money?
Yeah. Why do you
on-
spend your money for what is not bread?
So what is that? That's a false doctrine. That's the Babylon.
And your wages for what does not bring satisfaction.
Exactly. It won't bring life.
Instead, listen diligently to me and eat what is good.
Yeah.
Listen, you're eating by listening.
Yeah.
And let your soul delight itself in abundance. You know where I'm at, right? Isaiah 55.
Yeah. I don't remember location, I remember the verses.
Yeah, it's deeply emblematic verses for receiving the things of God in the form of eating and drinking. But you can't really pay for it with money. You have to pay for it with repentance, with devotion, with commitment, with love towards God and appreciation and thanksgiving and all the sacrifices that we make.
Mhm.
So that's how we buy it, with those things. But you don't buy it with money.
No, freely you received and freely you give.
So I think it kind of fits a little with what you were saying in Proverbs there, but buy the truth and don't sell it.
Yeah. Who are weeping? If you go through all those verses, there is a richness of symbology there. The captains, the ships, the water, and they waxed rich because of her. Now she is no more. They're wailing and weeping. They're seeing the smoke of her burning. And they don't want to go near because they were terrified of her plagues. So they maintain their distance. At the same time, they wail and weep. There are a lot more details, like there are 95 characteristics for Babylon itself in those two chapters. There's incredible volume of data that God is giving in just those two chapters. If
Yeah.
you take Jeremiah 50, 51 and Isaiah 42, 38, whatever, there are a lot more places God talks about Babylon, if you put them, assemble them together, it's a humongous, voluminous task, but it has its rich rewards. You will gain great insight into the system
Yeah.
around us.